My name is Ion, and life had never been easy for me. I lived in a small, crowded neighborhood where every day was a battle for survival. My father had passed away when I was just 6, leaving my mother to take care of me and my little sister. Ira, she worked as a maid in different houses, cleaning floors and washing dishes just to put food on our table. I, too, had to work after school. I would sell newspapers near the market, calling out headlines to anyone who would listen. Some people ignored me, some gave me a pitying look, and a few kind souls bought a newspaper, sometimes giving me an extra coin or two. But even on the best days, we barely had enough to eat. One evening, after selling my last newspaper, I was walking home when I noticed an old man sitting near a roadside tea stall. His clothes were torn and covered in dust, his beard unkempt, and his eyes filled with exhaustion. He looked around as if searching for something, but no one seemed to care. I hesitated. I barely had anything myself. But something inside me wouldn't let me walk away. I stepped forward. "Uncle, are you okay?" I asked cautiously. The old man looked up at me with tired eyes and gave a weak smile. "Son, I haven't eaten anything all day. I don't have any money to buy food," he said in a frail voice. I swallowed hard. I only had a few coins in my pocket, not enough to buy him a meal. And the only thing I had left was a small piece of dry bread wrapped in a cloth, which I had saved for myself. My stomach growled at the thought of giving it away. But looking at the man's weak face, I made my decision. The man looked at me with surprise, as if he couldn't believe that a poor boy like me was offering him food. He took the bread with shaking hands, his eyes welling up. "You are a kind soul, son. May God bless you." I smiled and turned to leave, never imagining that this simple act would change my life forever. The next day, as I was setting up my newspapers, a luxurious black car stopped in front of me. People in my neighborhood rarely saw such expensive cars, and heads turned to look. A well-dressed man in a suit stepped out, followed by two other men in formal attire. To my shock, the man in the suit was the same old man I had helped the previous night, but he looked completely different. His dusty clothes were gone, and his face looked fresher, with a confident smile on his lips. He walked up to me and said, "Do you recognize me?" I nodded slowly, still confused. "My name is Mr. Zafar. I am a businessman." He smiled. "Last night I was dressed as a beggar to test the kindness of people. Many passed me by, some even scolded me. But you, a boy with so little, gave me everything you had." I couldn't believe my ears. "But why were you doing that?" I asked. He chuckled. "To find someone with a pure heart." Then, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. He handed it to me with a warm smile. "Open it," he said. With shaking hands, I tore the envelope open. Inside was a neatly folded letter. As I read it, my heart pounded. It was a scholarship letter for the best school in the city. My vision blurred with tears. "I want you to study and make a better future for yourself," Mr. Zafar said kindly. "You have something priceless, kindness. And the world needs more people like you." "But why would you do this for me?" I stammered. "Because kindness should always be rewarded," he said. "One day when you are in a position to help someone, promise me that you will." I nodded, unable to speak. That day, I learned something powerful. When you give without expecting anything in return, universe finds a way to give you back even more. Epilogue: The Circle of Kindness. Years passed. I completed my education with flying colors and eventually got a good job. My mother no longer had to work as a maid, and my sister got the best education. One day, as I walked down the street, I saw a hungry little boy selling newspapers just like I used to. Without thinking twice, I bought all his newspapers and gave him enough money for a good meal. He looked at me with gratitude, just as I had once looked at Mr. Zafar. And in that moment, I realized I had become the person I once needed.